About a year ago, my wife started dieting and exercising to lose weight. She's been incredibly successful and I supported her completely the entire time. She's lost about 80 pounds. About a month ago, she dropped a bomb on me. She had fallen in love with someone else and was no longer attracted to me. To make it exceptionally hard, the someone else is not real. He is a fantasy she made up in her mind. Apparently, he was writing to her over the internet on various blogs and message boards and helped her see things within herself she nor I had been able to. She resents me for not seeing these things and insists I have never done anything for her nor truly known her during our 13 years together. Been married 5, have 2 kids. I have to admit that she has been improving herself since then and is making some really good personal growth, but this fantasy is consuming her. She has started mourning him because he no longer writes to her. She has replaced the loss of his writing with him communicating with her via the radio by playing songs she likes. She is constantly thinking about him and comparing me to him. He's perfect in every way and not real. How can I compare to that? She says that she fantasizes about him physically even though he has no face. She is in love with what he has done for her and his perceived personality, which is 100% alpha male. She sees herself as the weak little housewife who needs to be totally dominated, but her actions and goals are anything but. She is still dieting and exercising. She has started several new hobbies and is intent on moving out of the house as soon as she gets a job and becomes financially independent. She feels that by moving out she and I will become stronger people and the children will be better off. She is certain of this. We are both good parents and dedicated to our kids, but I'm worried about her choice here because of her past. She has grabbed onto ideas in the past and run with them like this despite my warnings, and they always end up bad. She falls and picks up something else. This is what I see happening again despite her assurances that this fantasy is her ultimate motivation, whom she will never let down. She's prepared to be celibate for the rest of her life because of this fantasy. She doesn't want to divorce me and has insisted that she will always be faithful to our vows. She's also been encouraging me to go sleep with other women because that's what men are supposed to do. She feels that her past fantasies were corrupt and wrong and that only this one is pure. She has completely rejected physical intimacy for life as of right now because of her dedication to this fantasy guy. It's almost like she has picked up on the hyper extremes of the alpha male and female roles and latched onto them, trying to make it a reality for both of us. I have my beta tendencies but don't consider myself so. I can be lazy on occasion and procrastinate, all of which are major issues she has picked up with me. It's like I have to be doing something manly all the time in order for her to not be upset with me about something. She never stops working or doing something anymore. She sleeps 4 hours a night. She refuses to eat properly and constantly insists she needs to lose 5 more pounds. She had been making herself throw up but has since stopped that since I found out. She'll eat 900 to 1,200 calories a day and then eat like 5,000 on one day and beat herself up over it and exercise excessively while doing a day of even lower calories than normal. She cooks these fantastic healthy meals for me and the kids but refuses to eat them herself, always insisting she had already eaten too many calories that day. She'll have a salad. I think the crazy diet and lack of sleep is causing some of this stuff. I've on numerous occasions tried to push her to do 1600 to 1,800 calories per day, but she refuses to do it and I can't force her to eat. I'm not sure where to go with this. She has given hints that there is a chance for me, but I have to become better than this fantasy man. I have to start telling her about her inner self through metaphor and playing songs for her on the radio. Making cloud hearts for her and a bunch of other impossible tasks. Normally everything I say is met with anger and resentment. Everything I say and do is wrong because I'm not good enough to understand what she is doing or what I need to do. Whenever I do something right, she gets upset because she says I'm doing it for her and not myself. Everything she is doing is for herself. Everything I have to do must be for myself. On occasion she will listen to what I have to say and not react in anger. I can tell she takes it in but dismisses it because I'm not worthy of being listened to or giving her advice about anything. I want to help her through whatever this thing is. I love my wife very much and many of the things she has said to me are totally untrue even though she insists they are. I want to keep my family together. She is seeing a therapist but refuses to tell her about this fantasy. She refuses to go to couples counseling. She thinks she has all the answers for herself and me and the family already, and the therapist is only to help her work through some of her childhood problems. She was in the middle of a bitter divorce and used as a pawn. She also experienced some physical acts. No, it's not for the better. The internet romance is for a made-up person. He's not real in any way. She has taken random writings and associated them with him, writing them as different people all for her sake. She thinks he even wrote her a book. I came home one day and she had covered the ceiling fan, insisting he had broken into the house and installed a camera in it. We no longer have a ceiling fan in the bedroom. She's always had a tendency to read too into things, to find metaphors that fit with her in all sorts of ways from all sorts of things. I've had to stop her from doing it in the past many times because she obsesses over it. This just exploded in grand fashion and I don't know how to stop it this time because it includes the rejection of me being a voice for good or of reason. She has told me that I am not worthy of telling her what she needs to do regarding anything. She said she wants me to be, but I'm having trouble getting her to recognize that I am worthy because she will not let go of the fantasy who is in control of her right now. We talked yesterday afternoon when I got home from work. Every day she has some new way of justifying what she is doing. Yesterday she told me that our entire relationship was fake. She had planned it out and played it exactly as she had scripted it. Nothing was real about it. Nothing I have ever done was ever good for her. Us being together is destructive, and all I ever did was drag her down with me and hold her back from finding her true potential. I don't know how she can believe any of this. I have constantly pushed her to reach her potential, supported her goals and her ambitions. I loved seeing her succeed. She'd let me down with a lot of it. She started writing several books and would just stop. When I asked why, she'd make up some excuse and move on to something else and get frustrated if I would bring up the old thing. Her ideas in writing are fantastic. She even started a blog that was becoming pretty successful, but pulled it thinking this fantasy man and his cohorts were using it to spy on her somehow. I cannot force her to get help for this. Unless she is a threat to herself or others, she has to initiate it. I'm still debating whether to call her therapist, leaning toward not. I still have the hope that this is some strange phase she will get through and would rather not increase the tension between us right now. She's moving out as soon as she gets a job and has enough money for her own place. Her plan is to have the kids live with me, and I will pay her to be daycare until I get home from work and pick them up in the evenings. That isn't going to happen. I'm not going to give her money if I don't have to. I'm also not sure when she's planning to be able to work doing that, especially work to sustain herself. She wants to live forever alone until her fantasy comes to get her. I asked if she thought she would regret it when she's 50 to 60 and looks back and he's never come. She said he's worth it, did the sigh of ecstasy, and the smile as she thought about him for a moment. She used to do that little sigh and smile for me. This hurts a lot, but there is nothing I have been able to do to get through to her. Can't convince her that any of what she is doing could be bad in any way. She admits she doesn't really know where she is going with this or what she wants or what this fantasy wants of her, but she's just going with it because he's wonderful and always knows what's right. She's expecting everything to be perfect as soon as she gets away from me. Spoke with her mother about some of this. She called me to ask what was going on with her. She's as baffled as me and has told me about times when she would talk about how much she loved me and how great we were together. One of those times was as recent as about 2 months ago when we were out there visiting. I'm just taking care of the kids and making it through the torrent of accusatory stares. The hurtful comments, the rolling eyes and general resentment of everything I say and do, while watching her brighten up and smile about throwing the rest of her life away on something that will never be. I'm still debating whether to call her therapist or not. I found her new weight loss pills last night. She's been taking this med. There was a class action suit against the manufacturer, and I've found a number of discussions about people experiencing psychosis and delusions after taking it. She called me at work this morning freaking out. She couldn't find her car keys and was sure her fantasy had broken into the house and taken them to prevent her from going anywhere today. I had put them in my pocket this morning when I picked them up off the floor and forgot. I've been reading about delusional disorders, and her situation fits pretty well with a couple of the subtypes. The problem is that these people have to want treatment. You can't just drop them off at the hospital and say evaluate her, and even if I could, she's still rational enough in every other capacity to get through an evaluation. The only way someone will be admitted involuntarily is if they become a threat to themselves or others. She hasn't done that, and being stable in every other aspect of her life, nobody who met her would know there was anything wrong. Even if I did tell her therapist, all she could do is bring it up with her to talk about. I guarantee that would end any and all therapy she is doing now and in the future, and just further increase the resentment toward me. She just called me again and apologized for the mean things she said last night and has decided she doesn't want to move out anymore. She wants us to live as friends so that we can give the kids a good start in life as a family. She wants to worry about our living situation at some later time. I think she decided not to move out because she realized it was going to be much harder on her than she thought and will not result in the bliss she is expecting. I tried to tell her that last night, and I guess it finally sunk in. Maybe she is beginning to listen to me. She truly believes this guy is real. I have seen no cracks in that belief yet. I'm going to try and schedule some family things. Try to get her mind off her fantasy and show her how good the family is together. Maybe it will slowly degrade the delusion if she is exposed to the positive things she already has. If that happens, she may be willing to seek some professional help. Me and her mother are both pushing for her to seek help. We cannot force her against her will. There has been no indication of danger to anyone. Her treatment at this point must be voluntary. Trust me, I'm doing what I legally can to push her to get help. I'm reluctant to tell the therapist because I know for sure that she will leave as soon as it is brought up and never return to therapy again. Any threat to her fantasy will be avoided and pushed away. I'd rather see her continue going to therapy with the chance she may initiate it after pressure from me and her mother than for her to not seek help with anything at all. I understand what you all are saying, but it's not as easy as throwing her in the car and driving her to the hospital or telling the therapist to talk to her about it. The past few days have been very positive. We've had some good, open, honest, and calm talks about things, and she's been doing a lot of thinking. She is becoming happier and has started talking about the future in the house we are in and what she wants to do with the garden next year. She has initiated hugs and rubs my back instead of giving me the annoying, uncomfortable back pat. One thing she used to do was touch my foot in bed when she slept. She started doing that again and will even rub it gently every once in a while. She's not as angry and doesn't constantly attack me and roll her eyes at everything I do and speak. She asked me to put the ceiling fan back up and has said that the fantasy isn't contacting her at all anymore. Even by the radio. She's completely cut out caffeine and no longer has those pills. She's eating better and cut back on the excessive exercise. She's also started relaxing a lot more. I can see the stress has reduced. I don't know what's happened, but I guess our talks are beginning to sink in. She still believes in the fantasy guy, but pretty much all the other crazy things are gone. Something is improving. I just hope it keeps up and there will be a crack in her belief about the fantasy. And she will be willing to seek help. She's got an appointment with her therapist this afternoon. I'm going to ask her again to bring it up and do what I can to convince her that there is nothing wrong with talking about it and they cannot involuntarily commit her. She's afraid they will instantly find her crazy and throw her into a hospital. I can't see her faking it. She's been open and honest about it all, and I push her to do so whenever she gets reluctant to tell me something to spare my feelings. I have always been able to tell when she's not being honest or lying to me. She hasn't shown any of the signs, and she generally slips up and gives it away indirectly if she tries to hide it. She initiated a talk about the fantasy last night, which opened the door for me to inject out. I did it pretty well. 3-hour conversation about him and things. She is under his direction and is willing to do anything he wants her to. I tested the level of her commitment by asking if she would punch me in the face if he wanted her to. She said no and began crying. She was upset with herself because she wouldn't be willing to hurt me like that for him. That eased my fears of her hurting me or the children at some point. It also caused her to question his direction over her and caused her to look at her own morality and ability to make decisions for herself. I wore the fantasy down slowly by asking questions to have her create her own doubt instead of me saying it directly. On occasion I began to step over the line and her defenses started to come up, so I had to back off to keep the dialogue going. One thing I noticed and used to my advantage was she kept saying "I think he wants." She thinks but isn't sure. When I questioned this, she got defensive, so I had to move away, but I think my point was made. She still insists he is real and she wants to do whatever he tells her to. She wants his direction. She said he had made her a better wife to me. I told her he had made her a failure as a wife and explained why. She began crying again and apologized and told me she didn't think it was possible for her to be pulled away from me. I was perfect. She said I am the best man she has ever known. She still believes in him and that his direction is right and good, but I think she has more doubt now. She also agreed to mention him as her friend to her therapist at their next meeting. It's a step in the right direction. Weird weekend, but I think we've come to some sort of understanding. I am going to stop encouraging her to seek help, but I have to make a change in how I'm going about it. We will live as friends, roommates. She wants to take care of me and wants the stability I provide. I like her taking care of me and providing stability for her and the family. She's getting her own room and we will raise our children together. The pushing for her to seek help was creating tension and making us worse. I need to stop that. I need to be in a place where she can be happy. I can be happy and we can make the kids happy together. After discussing this roommate situation, we both think it will do that by easing the tension between us and allowing the good times and the fun to come back. I'm looking forward to this for some strange reason and feel really good about it. Maybe just relaxing and having fun together as a family will do more to help her and cause her to seek help than all the pushing in the world. I just feel I've hit a wall with the pushing and it's negatively affecting progress at this point. Just need to step back, encourage in subtle and small doses at the right times, and enjoy life with a woman who genuinely cares about me and my well-being and genuinely loves and would do anything in the world for her children. She's still a great woman and even better in some ways, with the exception of the fantasy man, who by the way is showing signs of many people in her life, herself, and me mainly. I'm less worried about her getting dangerous as I have seen who is being represented, and I think reintroducing a role-based calm to the relationship will be good for all of us. Especially the kids. I'm still going to encourage her to get help, but I feel that my pushing has reached the point where it is counterproductive. She knows she's hurt me with this, as it is the equivalent of a knee to some weird strange extreme. Another thing that is bothering me is my own urge to have an affair. Not to get back at her for anything, but to seek out my own happiness. To do something that may make me feel good, even if totally stupid and irrational. I had an old friend reach out to me the other day on Facebook. She's going through a divorce. I told my wife about it. I have never kept things like that from her. She's encouraging me to meet with her if for nothing else than to talk about our situations with someone who can relate. Of course, she also encouraged me to F the S out of her. If I meet with her, I'm almost certain it will result in bonding. It feels good to be wanted by someone. It felt good that she reached out to me. I'm fighting against it with everything I have, but I'm broken. I want to be fixed. My wife can't fix me right now and may never be able to. I realize I'm just justifying this horrible decision, but I don't know if I care. My wife isn't making it easier either. She got all excited when encouraging me to do it. Is God testing me and my goodness with all this? Let's see if he can deal with a delusional wife who has orgasms in front of him while imagining a non-existent man while he struggles to keep his family together and maintain his job and sanity. Might as well have his wife encourage him to have an affair also. He can handle it. What's going to come next? She has no ability to support herself and nowhere to go. I can't just kick her out in the street and make her homeless. I don't think that would knock her out of the delusion, but would probably make her more dependent on it, seeing as she would have nothing else. We have talked extensively about the kids and the separate bedrooms and no intimacy. We can't fix that right now, and according to her never will. The best thing I can do right now is to make sure they still have two loving parents devoted to their needs to be here for them. They have that as long as me and her can maintain a level of civility which is dependent on me becoming very careful about addressing the delusion as a delusion. The asking or telling her to get help validates for her that I do not believe and pushes me into the enemy camp. I'm in the friendly camp right now. I will keep pushing her to get help, but I have to stay within the friendly side while doing it, or else the anger and resentment will kick up and nothing I say will be heard at all. Right now, she may not accept what I say, but she listens and thinks about it, and it comes out later in the directions he provides her. I have to do this right. I have to be gentle. I have to develop her trust in me in order to get anywhere toward her seeking help. I've been doing extensive research on dealing with delusional disorders and feel I am going about this the right way. Being direct and firm doesn't work on people suffering from it. It just drives them further away from help. 2 years later, occasionally my wife will get in these moods. I can see them coming on, and they usually last for a few days to a week or two. During this time, everything becomes my fault. She says I don't love her and never talk to or listen to anything she says. If I try to help, she gets angry and tells me she doesn't want my help or advice. Anything I say she calls crap. If I try to explain my feelings about this negativity, she calls me a liar and proceeds to tell me how I am really feeling, and tells me about the hidden subconscious malicious motive for everything I do that is intended to do nothing but hurt her. I have tried to talk to her about these moods when she's not having them, and sometimes she listens and understands and seems to be able to reflect on how poorly she has treated me, but other times it will initiate the mood itself, usually over something she doesn't remember saying to me. If I try to be at all specific and tell her about a particular insult and how it made me feel, she will immediately call me a liar and insist she never said it and accuse me of making things up. For this reason, I have to resist actually revealing a lot of what I am feeling. It's very hard to talk to her about anything because I never know what may set her off. It can be anything at any moment. If I ask for verification on some piece of information I already know but want to be sure of before I act on it, it will set her off because that is evidence of me never listening to her. Even if I try to explain it was just to verify I had it correct, it makes no difference. The worst thing has to be her constantly telling me how I am feeling about things. That my feelings and intent are always to hurt her in some way, even though that is the farthest thing from my mind. There is always some hidden meaning behind everything I say. Of course, I tend to avoid talking to her during these times, but that leads to her getting angry at me for not talking to her, and not talking to her means I don't love her. I've tried to explain many times why I close myself off during these times, but it falls on deaf ears. She will not accept me telling her that her behavior hurts me and just turns it around on me so that it's my behavior that is hurting her. It didn't used to be this way. I'm not happy, and she is able to recognize my unhappiness and shows genuine interest in trying to help me, but refuses to accept that it is her treatment of me that has slowly broken me down over the past couple years. I've suggested couples counseling, but she refuses, saying we can resolve everything by ourselves. She thinks she has all the answers to everything, and if only I would accept what she says to me and about me, that it would all get better. How does one accept these hidden intentions of malice and correct them when they don't really exist? Believe me, I've searched my soul to find them in myself, as she has almost had me convinced of the terrible person hidden inside me. Comments: you can't force her to go to a doctor, but what you can do is stop engaging with her in her bad moods. You simply refuse to deal with anyone's ranting and raving at you, no matter what disorder they may have. Story 2. I woke up and my patience was tested, and I think I kept it together pretty well. One of my big issues have been jealousy, and it always have been. Well, last week exactly, it was last Saturday, when he was doing something he does every weekend, a woman from his work showed up to support him, and they went to dinner afterward. He lied to me about it because he said I would freak out, to say the least. I did really bad. This is something I have refused to go with him. It is something I don't enjoy, and I have been extremely rude about it and out of line. Well, this woman is someone I have been really jealous of. She works with him, and I could tell he liked her. He told it was nothing more than a friendship, but I could tell he genuinely liked her as a person, and it hurt me. Well, she texted him about work a lot, and it was just innocent until lately, I believe. I in my heart believe this woman now really likes him, and now I feel like I am not only fighting for the marriage I have destroyed, but also now I have to really compete against someone who has been my DH friend. Well, DH used to have my cell phone until he got his new one. Well, this morning when I woke up, there was a text from her about work. It is her day off, but I guess she likes to call and ask about stuff ahead of time. When I saw it, part of me is gone. I have been so hard this week not to nag or even think about her. I deleted the message and prayed for strength and then moved on. I didn't call DH at work about it because I am assuming she called him there and I didn't want to freak out or ruin the progress over the past few days. Should I say something about the text? I need to be strong today. I am not going to let someone else control the faith of this marriage. I am willing to fight. I just wish I would have done this earlier. Well, it was going really well, or at least I thought it was, and last night he went out to a movie with her and dinner and didn't tell me, and to make it worse he brought our daughter with him. She is the one that told me. He told me that he didn't tell me because there is nothing going on between them and didn't want to hear me freak out. He sorts of went off and commented that I didn't listen and he wanted to leave and I made him stay. I told him fine, that I couldn't make him stay and I couldn't be the only one fighting for it. We went to the bank to separate the accounts. Pretty much he is giving me all of the savings. And he was acting strange and sending a lot of mixed signals. After we were done, he told me pretty much he is torn, didn't know if it was healthy, didn't know what he wanted to do, and then implied he wanted to work on it. He also implied that he wanted to leave but not really split up. I am extremely confused and hurt. I don't even know what to do. This morning around 4 a.m. I heard him texting in the other room, and to make a long story short, he was texting her. I grabbed the phone and it talked about morning wood, and knowing who he was into, I told him to get out. I then called, texted her, and I was very surprised he was playing both sides and not really being honest with her either. I don't know how to feel right now. I feel really lost but also peaceful too. I am scared because I haven't worked in years. I have been a stay-at-home mom. I am definitely going to be working on myself. I have spent the last 11 years of my life in a whirlwind, and I am mad at myself for letting it get this far. When he was leaving, he was trying to blame me all for it and saying it was pretty much my fault. I have seen a completely different side of him this last couple of weeks, and for the most part I am speechless. Days later, when H left, he left me with the savings, house, and a signed agreement with him pretty much saying he would cover everything for the children. A very good amount of child support and then healthcare. He moved into a spendy extended stay. H has always not been good with money. I am the one that has had to do everything. Well, I had a feeling that it was not going to be very long till he was out on his own, till he was in trouble. I guess it took 5 days. Last night H was pretty much asking me to help him out. He wanted me to loan him the money for a month in advance so could not pay taxes on the hotel. He also said he had pretty much no money for food, gas. Well, this morning he called and told me something was wrong with the car and if I could help him out of and the help with the hotel. Should I help him or just let him realize how hard it is going to be on his own? He is trying to say if I help it will help him have more money for the kids so he can do stuff. I am lost. I don't want him to be hurting or strapped, but I know that it is a choice he made. I accept full responsibility for the demise of this marriage. I want it to work, but I am seeing that what I want the most is to be happy. I am scared that by not giving him the money is going to start a fight, but I just am not willing to fight with him. I just can't anymore. Days later. Well, today H called to ask for the money to help him out and I stood strong and told him I just couldn't. Well, in the process I asked him if he ever planned to ever come home and he told me no. I keep my calm throughout all of it and then freaked out. I panicked and realized I was completely alone in this state and probably should go home to where my family was so I could have a support system. I texted him and a huge fight broke out. You can't take the kids. He called me everything in the world and pretty much told me I was worse than a murdered. That I didn't change. I then ended up begging him to come home or at least try therapy. Something we never did. I am ashamed of myself right now and even more lost. Well, today I feel better about the whole situation. I am glad I brought up therapy. I don't think he is going to go for it, but I brought it up and literally begged him to give it a try. I am not saying I didn't make mistakes in this marriage, but I tried to fight for it. It may have been too late, but I tried. At the end of the night, I know what I did and I can sleep a little better. Today he called and I felt like again he was manipulating me again. This is a very ugly side of him. It is like nothing I have ever seen. I almost wish he would just be asked to me instead of trying to be nice to get things. I will not let him sit on the phone and give me a sob story, because when push comes to shove, the biggest sob story was the hell he put me through the last month. Acting as if he was staying, making love to me, bringing me to a house he knew I would love and talking about buying. Not for us, but I didn't know that at the time, making love to me more times than I can count, going on a date with the O and bringing our child and telling them to not tell me. Then me waking up to him texting dirty things to her. And that was just the last month. He has done some very, very shady things when it comes to other women over the past 11 years. Even with all of that, I was willing to fight and try to make this work, but he didn't want to. He wanted his freedom and to be happy. I guess he is getting it, and it is not what he had planned. Not my problem anymore, I guess. Couple weeks later. Well, today H called and said he was pretty much broke and freaked out and told me I needed to give him $700. I told him no, that I couldn't and that this wasn't supposed to be easy, and maybe it is so hard for a reason. A fight on his side broke out. I refused to fight and stayed calm. He pretty much told me that unless I give him $350, he figured this was a compromise, that he would never give us a chance and would forever hold this against me, that I just want him to fail and have to come crawling back to me. I told him that resenting me the rest of his life was a sad way to live, that I had been praying for him and don't want him to fail whatsoever. I just didn't understand after 11 years and 2 children why he was not even willing to give therapy a chance. He then told me that he wouldn't even consider therapy if I didn't help him because his account, my name is still on that account, was going to be overdrafted, closed, and he wasn't going to be able to pay it off. Oh, and that he was going to have to move into a slum where the boys couldn't go to. I would never allow them at the place he was talking about. It's really, really bad. He then told me that I needed to give him space. I told him I have and he agreed, but he said that he couldn't work on himself with all the worrying about how he was going to eat, drive, live. Well, I'm going to give him a couple $100 to get by, but I realized something in all of this. He has a lot of anger in him and has absolutely no interest in working on himself for us right now. I am not going to let him walk away with blaming me for because I didn't try or destroyed him with money. I have been working on myself. I know I have a long way. He even somewhat mocked that I was turning to God. I will not give him that power over me to blame me for everything. He's going to get his couple of hundreds of dollars to pay for our child's dentist and food. It is on him now. He will no longer be able to hold the little he gave me in savings over my head. He is on his own as I am. I feel like I am turning a new leaf and there will be many more. I have poured my heart asking him to come back or even just give therapy a chance for our boys. He doesn't want to. I can no longer put any more energy and time worrying about the moment he tells me we were worth it. I prayed and asked for some clarity. I guess today I got it. Months later, a week and a half ago, H started to talk about working on it and saying that he didn't want to work on it and not be here. I was hopeful, but actions speak louder than words. He started texting, calling me nonstop, and we seemed to be reconnecting. It seemed like we were on the right track. Well, 7 weeks exactly to the day we separated, H texted me at 3 a.m. and asked if I was awake. I told him I was and he asked if he could come over. He then called me and I could tell by his voice there was something up. He came over and our youngest woke up and we just laid in the bed together. All of us. Our youngest eventually went to sleep and we made love. Well, after it was around 7 a.m. and he had to get ready for work and he left and texted me something. I don't remember what it was, and I texted joking back that I was sorry that our youngest woke up, and he told me, no. It helped. I texted back, what? Then he told me that he wanted his family back and wanted to come home. Well, the next day he checked out of his extended stay hotel and came home. This last week has been somewhat of a blur of happiness, turning points, and emotions. I never thought I would say this, but this separation I think was the best thing for us. We needed it. Don't get me wrong, we have a lot of work ahead of us, but for the first time in 11 years, we are both on the same page with what has to be done, that we never want to go back to where we were. It's almost been unreal how much in a week we already have done. I can say even though I know there will be many hurdles, it feels like the calmest, happiest we have been in a while. There has been twice this week when things have happened that in the past would have been disasters, but both of us approached it right and didn't let it go down that path. I have to say that alone I am so proud of. When I finally realized I had to take control, the tables turned. Even though it has only been a week, H is seeming to be doing them too, and I did not expect him to do them at first, but he seems to realize how important they are. Now don't get me wrong, I know that we have hard work ahead of us, but I feel at peace that I know it is not just me but us. We have talked an extent with what has to be done and we don't want to go there ever again, and that we will have to work on it to not happen again. I think sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you can come back to the surface. I wish we never had to, but we did, and we both agree we just have to grow from it. I know it will be a journey with many twists and turns, but I am looking forward to it, and as he said, I am glad we are going to be taking it together. My comment: I wanted to provide a different ending than most of the ones I have posted so far. Sometimes, marriages can work out, but you need to take control. No matter if you decide to reconcile or divorce,